Hi, I'm Gary Rogowski. Welcome to the Northwest Woodworking Studio, a school for woodworkers in Portland, Oregon. Today's master class is on cove cutting on the table saw. Most people think of the table saw just as a way of cutting up sheet goods or wood. Perhaps you do some joinery with yours. What many people don't realize is that you can shape wood on the table saw, like these coves here. These were all done on the table saw. Take a look at the cut a blade makes. This is a straight groove cut into the length of a board. But think about what might happen if you came at the blade from a different angle. Well, that's what the cove cut does in a way. You get this shape depending on the angle that you attack the blade at. You get this shape or this shape. Let me show you how. Okay. First you need to determine how wide and how deep your cove cut is going to be. Make up a set of parallel arms. These are two arms connected with two other arms that rotate open. Set these for your 2-inch width. Then set your blade height for your full depth of cut. Let's just call it a 1/4 inch here. So your depth of cut is set, the width of your cut is set, and then take your parallel arms and set them at some angle to the blade so that when the blade is coming up and out of the table, it's just touching the rear arm. When it's going into the table, it's just touching the front arm. That's the angle you want to lock it in at. Once you get it, mark the table insert. That's your angle. Now most people cut coves by clamping a fence to the table saw table, which is fine, but it's tough to clamp to this table. It's difficult to find a spot. I had a project some years ago where I had a series of cove cuts, parallel cove cuts, so I came up with another method. I made up a set of arms, hinged here at the rear, and set at my angle. This fence, these arms get clamped to the fence, and this sets my angle. But it's almost infinitely adjustable for different angles depending on what you need. And clamp it in place. Then we clamp the arm to the table saw fence. And we're ready to go. Now it's time to start cutting, but there's a few things to be aware of. I use a flat grind blade on my saw. It gives a slightly smoother cut. Have push sticks at the ready to push your stock through. Take very small depth of cuts, so maybe a 32nd of an inch with each pass. And take your time as you pass it over the blade. It's a fairly rough cut, and you don't want a lot of extra cleanup by moving it too quickly. So take your time as you pass it over the blade. Take a pass. Then raise the blade up, take another. But we've just started to unlock the possibilities of the cove cut. This is where it gets really interesting. Look at these things. This happens when you change the blade angle as well as your attack angle to the blade. Look at what happens. See what happens when the blade emerges. First you see one cut being made and then a second cut, a second shape actually. It's fascinating. What's happening is that two sides of the blade are cutting this cove. First you cut the shape of the front side of the blade and then into your cut. But when you emerge, you're also cutting on the back side of the blade. That's why you see and feel a little ridge down the inside of the cove of these. Now this cut was made at about a 10-degree attack angle and a 10-degree tilt angle. And look at what you get. So here's your cove. Now it's time to clean it up. There's a couple of ways you can go at this. You can use a curved bottom plane. gooseneck scraper. And the most labor-intensive method, and the one most of us use, is to get a piece of building insulation, lay a piece of sandpaper in, shape this to the shape of your cove, and then use a sanding block to sand your coves. Takes time, but it works. These are some of the possibilities that you can have making cove cuts. Some are, simple but beautiful. Some are odd and strange. All of them will need to be cleaned up. You need to take your time when you're making these cove cuts. Cut down on the amount of work you have to do. Take your time. Be safe with these cuts. Thanks for joining us at the Northwest Woodworking Studio. We're in Portland, Oregon. Come and visit us. Drop in anytime, or check us out on the web at northwestwoodworking.com.